Andy Mack, a show that premiered on Disney Channel in 2017 and lasted until 2019. I regard this show as the end of an era, practically the end of Disney sitcoms as we knew it. Like a lot of you, Disney Channel took up a bulk of my childhood. I grew up on Good Luck Charlie, Hannah Montana, Wizards, Sweet Life on Deck, Austin and Ally, Jessie, and some animations like Gravity Falls, Fish Hooks, and Phineas and Ferb. I believe Andy Mack, as far as popularity and quality, is the last big sitcom Disney Channel had before streaming took over, TV died, and Disney Channel sitcoms along with it. I am aware, however, that Raven's Home and Bunked were more popular and also had great success before the death of Disney Channel. But in my opinion, Andy Mack was truly Disney Channel's last gem. I'm the Crim Reaper, and I present to you a series review of Andy Mack. So Andy Mack stars? Well, Andy Mack, a 13-year-old middle school girl. It centers around her and her two friends, Cyrus and Buffy. Andy is Asian American, Buffy is biracial, and Cyrus is Jewish in the show's attempt to give representation to all ethnicities and backgrounds. There ain't no full-on black representation in the show, though. Just so y'all know, there's no fully black characters. Andy's world takes a shocking turn when she finds out her believed to be sister Bex is actually her mother, and her believed to be mother Celia is actually her grandmother. Oh my God! And then off in the kiddie world, Andy has this massive crush on Frisbee player Jonah Beck. She crushes and has a pursuit for him through season 1. This season is weirdly nostalgic for me because it started when I was just beginning high school and I was halfway grown out of watching Disney shows at this point. But I still remember the buzz of the show and how groundbreaking at the time it was for its mature tone, covering something like teen pregnancy, broken family dynamics, and featuring Cyrus as a gay character. So it was big for that at the time. Now, I picked up watching the show again in 2025 to see how it holds up because I had only seen season 1 when I was in high school. Admittedly, I expected to cringe and just laugh at the Disney acting in my older age. And the show does have some overdramatic, sappy, somewhat cringy acting. It does. The actor is over enunciated and all that. You've been lying to me my whole life. You're actually my grandmother and Bex is my mother. It's awkward and funny seeing Andy talk to Jonah in her deep, introspective way, stretching every syllable like I just showed. She'll be like, but what is life, Jonah? And Jonah's just chilling like, Docious Magocious, dude. You should definitely join my Frisbee squad, Andy man. But you start to get used to it and the acting really becomes charming and wholesome and gives the show a good identity. The show really does a good job of accurately depicting the feelings of a first crush, being awkward, not wanting to say the wrong stuff, barely being able to speak. And it really mirrors that awkwardness of growing up, being a teen, wanting someone who doesn't like you back. It really nails the emotions, especially in season 1. Now, the plot thickens when Bex is urged to email Andy's father, Bowie. He's unaware he had a daughter all this time, and he's thrilled to be in his daughter's life. He becomes too much for Andy because he's always surprising her, getting involved in her business, like not giving her any privacy. He'll be involved with Jonah and, her Frisbee team. And eventually she just lashes out. She's sick of him being everywhere. And then that makes him leave for a few episodes because, he's kind of embarrassed and saddened. But the show tugs at your heartstrings here. We see on Andy's laptop after her dad leaves that he made a whole montage of the time they spent together in just those few days, like her at the Frisbee team, her going eating with her dad. And it just shows that he was just really thrilled to meet his daughter, basically, after not being there for 13 years. It's really understandable. Now, he was being a bit overbearing and not giving privacy and really overstepping. But I do understand, he's excited, because he's missed out on his daughter for 13 years. He comes back an episode or 2 later after giving Andy space, though. And he eventually proposes to Bex in the season finale, to which she says, We find out later in season 2 that she just says no to his proposal. Throughout the season, Andy has essentially been struggling in a love triangle with herself, Jonah, and his girlfriend, Amber. Amber and Andy have had beef this whole season, basically, fighting over Jonah. And Amber actually tries to prove to Jonah that Andy likes her by sending her a text posing as Jonah. She actually shows up in the hallway from that text, basically proving it. At the end of the season, Jonah eventually breaks up with Amber, and the season ends with Andy speaking up for herself to Jonah, basically saying that she's trying to shed her feelings for him and that she just wants to live for herself now, and she's done doing stuff for Jonah all the time. She basically, in an indirect way, admits that she was doing all the stuff that he asked her to do because, she's crushing and likes him so much. So when he asks her to join a space otter ceremony, like, she denies showing up to that because she's done just living for Jonah. So it kind of ends on that note. It's kind of implied that ANDI is done being obsessed with him and she just wants to live for herself now. But we see in the next episode, like, she does still like Jonah. So that's kind of how the season there ends. Now, it's foreshadowed and hinted to us at the end of season 1 that Cyrus also likes Jonah. Now, this really isn't a surprise because you can see it throughout season 1. He's kind of obsessive over Jonah. He's trying to be his biggest fan for the Space Otters, their Frisbee team, being the number one fan, getting the concessions and everything. And he's just obsessed over how he looks around Jonah. He's so excited to talk to him. So it's kind of obvious during the season that he's gay. But it's implied at the end that he likes Jonah because when Amber says to Jonah that if she likes you, she'll turn back around, ANDI turns around, and then also Cyrus turns around. So that's the way the show hints at that. On a more minor note, Buffy is also doing stuff in this season. She's basically the tomboy best friend. She does track and field sports, and she's in this friendship with this boy, and there's a hint of romance with it, but nothing too major, really. But overall, this was a great opening season. It had a lot of drama. It had a lot of real topics, mature stuff for a family show. And that's why this season is pretty nostalgic for me. Like, I was out at Disney Channel at this point. I was in high school, but I have a bit of nostalgia from season 1. Now, I want to talk about the granddad. I forgot his name. I want to talk about the granddad on this show. So obviously we know on Disney Plus, he was removed from a lot of episodes of this show because of what he did in real life. Being a PDF file, this guy is the most pointless character in TV history. If you got rid of the granddad, this show would not change at all. It wouldn't affect anything. It would be the exact same show. In fact, it might add to the intrigue of it because if Celia is a single mother, that can kind of make the dynamic more interesting. But he's only there to still have white representation, basically to have a financial explanation for why they can afford everything, to be the bland white dad character. That's the only reason he's there. So the reason that half of this show is basically gone off of Disney Plus is because of this completely non-essential, inconsequential character. That's the reason why half of this show is gone. So at first I was watching this show on my pirate ship. Even up there, a lot of episodes were missing. So I ended up downloading Disney Plus to try to watch the whole show. Up there, pretty much half the episodes were missing. I had to buy some episodes off of Amazon Prime to finish the whole show, all because of the granddad, who does nothing in the show. He has no effect on anything. Everybody plays a part. Like Jonah, he's essential because he's ANDI's love interest. ANDI's essential, obviously, because she's the main character. Bex, she's a sister turned mom. Celia, grandmother turned mom. Buffy is the tomboy best friend. Cyrus is the quirky best friend. Amber is her rival. Everybody serves a purpose. But this dad is inconsequential to anything. And even in the episodes where he's not there, like when you get to the point of the series where he got fired, you don't even notice he's gone. All this controversy, really, just for a character that didn't matter. He's not even in the opening sequence. That's just like a mini rant, and it's kind of funny to me. It's not funny what he did, but it's just hilarious how meaningless this character is.
Excuse my voice here, guys. I'm recording this section with a bit of a cold. In season 2, episode 1 of ANDI Mack, Bex convinces ANDI to go to a space artist ceremony with Jonah since she's sure that he likes her. A big plot point of this episode is ANDI deciding whether or not to go to it since she's trying to move on from Jonah. Jonah somewhat admits he likes ANDI at this ceremony by saying that Amber thinks he broke up with her because of ANDI. When ANDI says it's crazy she thinks that, Jonah says that's not crazy. So he has been catching feelings for ANDI throughout their friendship. Earlier in the episode, Jonah gave ANDI back the bracelet she made for him last season, saying he doesn't deserve it because obviously he gave it to Amber when they were together. ANDI happily gives Jonah the bracelet back during this chat, and it looks like they want to be together. Cyrus and Buffy are watching in the background. Buffy is geeked out watching ANDI finally bag Jonah, while Cyrus is happy for ANDI and is trying his best to be excited in the moment. But he's heartbroken deep down because he likes Jonah. By the way, guys, Cyrus is dating a girl named Iris at this moment, someone he met while hanging out with Jonah through season 1, but it's clear he's not super into it. Like, he's trying to be, and they did kiss in the episode, but it's clear he really wants to be with Jonah. The episode ends with Cyrus coming out to Buffy at the Spoon, where everybody eats at in this show. He admits he felt happy for ANDI, but hurt because he likes Jonah. For now, Jonah decides not to tell ANDI about it, but Buffy is supportive of him coming out. Additionally, Bex gives her answer to ANDI about Bowie. She tells ANDI that she's not marrying him, and ANDI ends the episode devastated. So this episode was a great opener to season 2. You got to feel bad for Bowie, really, because if you watch season 1, he basically abandoned his band going on world tours and stuff to be with his family and get together with Bex just for her to say no. She doesn't say no yet at this point. Like, she just tells ANDI she doesn't want to marry him. And in the next episode, Chinese New Year, he plans this whole thing about how he's going to propose to her. And during that whole ceremony of Chinese New Year with the family there, she just says no in front of everybody. And got a feel for him for that. Throughout the later episodes in this season, it's revealed that the reason Bex may not want to marry Bowie is because she hasn't got closure for somebody else she dated in her teen years. Because throughout the show, there's a picture of this man that Bex consistently just hides from ANDI, hides him in like a Pop-Tart box and stuff, and she never tells ANDI about him. ANDI suspects it's something that she's yet to move on from. And she also says she doesn't want to marry Bowie because he's just like too unpredictable. It's just not stable. So that's something she hints at too. And later on in the season, Bowie starts getting interest from this girl named Miranda. And it's kind of conflicting with Bex because even though she said no, she still, I guess, technically wants to be with Bowie. She just was kind of just undecided at the moment. But he starts getting interest from Miranda. Eventually, they start dating, and ANDI's like devastated by this. She's trying to convince him not to date her. They see that he starts meeting Miranda's daughter, Morgan. And a big plot point is that in a future episode, Miranda convinces ANDI and Bowie to let Morgan into ANDI's ANDI shack. ANDI shack is basically a place where she does all her art. It's like a small shed outside of her house. So she allows Morgan in. And Morgan ends up stealing something from ANDI shack. Like, ANDI tells her not to steal. It was like this box. It kind of looked like a wedding box, sort of like a ring box. She told her not to take that, and she ended up taking it. And at the end of the episode, Miranda makes ANDI look bad because it's revealed later on that what happened is that Morgan stole it, but Miranda just returned it back to the shack when nobody was looking. So in the moment, she made ANDI look like she was tripping and just talking bad about her daughter because she found it being in there again. But we found out later that she just put it back. That's what makes Bowie lose respect for her because she's not disciplining her daughter or teaching her that stealing is wrong. It made him doubt his own child. So that's what made him like ultimately lose respect for Miranda. And after this happens, after he breaks up with Miranda, ANDI and Bex low-key get excited. And then they start coming up with a plan for how Bex is going to propose to Bowie. So Buffy's story in season 2 is that she's trying to make the men's basketball team since there's no women's basketball team at their middle school. When she makes it, her main conflict is with this boy named TJ. Basically, he never passes her the ball. That's the conflict they have. He never passes her the ball. He doesn't take her seriously on the team, of course, because she's a girl. A big plot point after this is that if he doesn't get his grades up or he doesn't, pass this class, he's going to get kicked off the team. He ushers in Buffy to help tutor him. And during this, we find out that he has a learning disability. It's like a form of dyslexia, if I remember, to where he can't read numbers and letters properly. So he just has a learning disability. And Buffy keeps urging him to tell the teacher about this, but he doesn't want to let the school find out. Like, he doesn't want to be looked at as dumb and stupid. He eventually just convinces Buffy to do his homework for him. And she does that. But the catch is that if she does this, he must pass her the ball. And he still doesn't pass her the ball. That's the funny part. Even after he's still out on the team, he still doesn't pass her the ball. Literally during the next game, he's like, I'm not passing you because I don't need to. But he does end up passing it to her at the end, like when he kind of has no choice to, and she has an opportunity to hit like the game winner. And during this, which this is very dramatic and weird, I don't get this. This is like very corny. During this very moment, her mom comes back from the military during the game, and she just doesn't shoot the ball, and she just drops the ball and just hugs her mom at the end of the game. Like, what is this? I mean, I hate to say it, but that kind of justifies him not passing you the ball again because you didn't. But it was cool that her mom came back. And then another plot point after this is that eventually Buffy's going to have to leave her friends because of course, like her mom relocating and being in the military and stuff. So the build-up for the next episodes after this is them spending their last few days with Buffy. Now, on to Cyrus. Cyrus's big plot point in this season is that he's trying to be friends with TJ. and this comes at conflict because Buffy, of course, doesn't like TJ. He gives TJ secrets on how to convince Buffy to do things for him, like what to say, basically telling him to say every time he's around her that you're right, because she likes hearing that she's right. Buffy eventually catches wind of this, and then she grows to kind of get mad at Cyrus for this, and she doesn't want to be his friend anymore. And it's like he has to choose between TJ and her. And this is tough for Cyrus because basically his arc throughout the show is that he becomes friends with people that his friends don't like because he sees the good in people. That's kind of like his character arc throughout this whole show. Now, in the middle of ANDI and Jonah's relationship, they have problems because once they got together, they didn't really have chemistry or much to talk about. It becomes like a big point about how he never asked her out on a date. He never labeled her as girlfriend, or they labeled each other as boyfriend and girlfriend. ANDI brings this up to Jonah. She's like, oh, do you want to be called boyfriend and girlfriend? And he's like, oh, I don't like labels. This part was so funny to me. So she was like, so you don't want the bracelet and you don't want to be boyfriend and girlfriend? And he was like, yes, you got it right. That man was like, yes, you totally got it. That's why you're fired, ANDI man. And then he just walked away all happy. That was the funniest thing to me in this show.
Hey guys, I'm back to sounding normal again. So other developments in this season include ANDI meeting this boy named Walker at Cyrus's bar mitzvah. This is in the middle of her and Jonah's problems, in the middle of their relationship. He gets close with this boy because they're both artists. And actually in this event, Walker ends up drawing a portrait of ANDI, like an exact replica portrait of her face. And they sort of bond over that. In the middle of this bar mitzvah, Jonah gets a panic attack. It's not really explained in the show why he exactly gets panic attacks. I know panic attacks are sometimes genetic. I guess sometimes there's never really like a big reason for them. But I'm guessing the panic attack is because he saw ANDI with Walker, or he has a panic attack because of how their relationship's going right now. He gets help actually from TJ. TJ gets him some help. And then throughout the season, Cyrus kind of, I guess, tells him, he lets him know that he's having panic attacks and there's ways to manage it and get over it. After he has another panic attack, he runs to Bowie's guitar shop. And there he learns that playing guitar helps soothe him a lot to where the panic attacks go away. So that's something he kind of learns to lean on. It's a good lesson they put in the show to bring awareness to panic attacks. It does kind of seem on the nose, though. It's like the show trying to not to get at it or anything, but it seems like the show is trying its best to have a heads up on every social issue. But panic attacks are a real thing. I'm glad they covered it. It didn't seem too on the nose. I'm not saying it was super on the nose, but it was a little bit. After this bar mitzvah, ANDI still has kind of a closeness with Walker. Walker even FaceTimes her. She essentially has to choose between Walker and Jonah. So what happens next is that a couple of days later, I believe, or a few episodes later, Jonah actually makes a song for ANDI. And Bowie convinces him to do this because he's trying to win ANDI back. So he ends up writing her a song. And in the middle of all this, ANDI's still getting close with Walker. He's making art pieces for her and stuff. So to win her back, Bowie pretty much tells Jonah to write this song and sing it at the guitar shop. And he does this and they basically get back together. In an episode after this, you have Walker, coming back to ANDI's house, and he actually made shoes for her. So at this point, ANDI puts it off. She cuts off their, I guess, quasi relationship, saying that, she's not interested in him and she's like with Jonah and everything. He still insists on her keeping the shoes. So this is the funny part to me here. She did not have to wear the shoes. That's the funny part here. I get it's because they're middle schoolers. I guess they're just being stupid in this middle school. But she literally did not have to wear them. So she wears the shoes. Jonah sees them. And then that puts more friction in their relationship when she literally did not have to wear the shoes. So one of the ending plot points of the season, as I kind of mentioned before, is that Buffy is leaving her friends soon. She's going to have to leave the city, state. And this week is going to be the last time that she'll see her friends for a while or for a long time. She won't be in school with them anymore. So they kind of have this whole week where they're trying to spend as much time with Buffy as possible, do as much as they can together, and just kind of enjoy hanging out for the last time. The whole time watching this plot, I knew it was so stupid because obviously she's going to come back. Like it was so, it was so obvious that she was going to come back. But they have this whole final episode about them making this whole dramatic deal of it, her being her last day. And she's mad at them because she doesn't want to have it feel like it is her last day. She just wants it to be a normal day. ANDI and Cyrus are doing all these things like making a collage of photos or making it very like a memorial almost and making it very dramatic, but she doesn't want it to be that way. At the end, she ends up leaving town without telling anybody because basically she didn't want it to feel like she's dying or like it's this big of a deal. So when they try to come to her house at the end of the episode and try to, I guess, say goodbye, she's already gone. But of course, in the very next episode, she comes back again. I don't even think there's an explanation for it. She just, ANDI gets a phone call from her, like a surprise phone call, and she's walking near her house. And then, Buffy just surprises her and appears out of nowhere. So basically, the plot was meaningless. We knew she was coming back. So I think the last thing to talk about in this season is that Bex ends up proposing to Bowie. So the last episode in which that happens, it ends with shenanigans, of course. In the midst of her trying to propose to her, Bowie's band comes back, trying to, recruit him again to be on world tour together. And in the midst of this, Bex and Celia, they don't want him to go because obviously that stops the proposal. Celia talks about how he could meet like another girl while he's on tour and stuff. So she kind of has to get this proposal out. So the episode ends in crazy fashion with them burying the ring, the engagement ring, in a cake. And she ends up kind of like crumbling through the cake, and they all start digging into the cake. And then that's when he finds the engagement ring. And then when he's like, "What is this?" She's like, just like how she was at the end of season 2, at the end of season 1, which is funny. So that leads to them being engaged, starting season 3, and pretty much they're together at this point. The one thing I feel like it's important to mention too at the end of season 2 is that Buffy finally calls Marty again. So I didn't mention this, and I didn't mention him by name earlier in this review. So the boy that did track and field with her was Marty to start the show. So they kind of had like a hint of romance. Buffy basically said that she just wanted to be friends with him. And then after that, like, he just kind of didn't talk to her anymore. He wasn't featured in the show after that. She was kind of getting close with him. Like, she was liking him, but it's like she wasn't comfortable expressing her feelings and being that close, it seemed like. So that's why. So she calls him again, like, at the end of the season. And he's cheesing so much. He has this big smile on his face. Like, yes, I'm glad to hear from you. So that's how, the season ends there. There's so much I'm forgetting, guys. And then also in season 2, you also had a kind of slight bond between ANDI and Amber. There was a few episodes where they hung out together and ANDI still talks to her. Actually, Amber picks up a job at the Spoon. So it becomes like an awkward tension thing because she's around the whole friend group, like serving them at the table and stuff. But of course, it's awkward because of her, ANDI, and Jonah. But they kind of end up bonding. There's an episode where her and Amber have a sleepover with each other, and it kind of takes a turn for the worse because Amber convinces her to sneak out the house and go to a fairground, and it's like late at night, there's nobody there, the rides aren't turned on. She ends up turning on the roller coaster for ANDI, and the funny thing is only ANDI's on the roller coaster and Amber's controlling it, so she turns it on, and then she turns it off when ANDI's like high up in the air and just leaves her stuck on the roller coaster and then just leaves. I think it was out of anger, though, because it was like Amber saw on her phone that Jonah was calling, and that kind of made her mad because, of course, she used to be with Jonah. So she saw him calling, and that probably made her mad. Pretty much the cops are alerted by this, that, somebody's using the fairground when they shouldn't. And then, ANDI gets in trouble because of that. So moving on to season 3, to me, guys, if I'm being honest, once I got to this season, I feel like the show should have ended already. Like, it felt like after the season finale, the show could have been over because everything had already happened at this point. Everything happened. The main thing of the show, the main plot point of the show was ANDI getting Jonah. That was like the main thing in season 1. Like, can she get Jonah, and can Bex and Bowie get married? That pretty much was the main plot point. Now, granted, they're just engaged at this point, but basically they're together. Those were the main plot points of the show, and they already happened. So after that, there really was no point of the show continuing because everything that needed to happen already happened already. But nevertheless, season 3 was still good in my opinion. I don't think it was bad, but I just kind of got to the point where I was waiting for the show to end, if I'm being honest. So I kind of glossed over this in my season 2 review. But towards the end of that, Cyrus goes off to camp. So he's away from ANDI for a few weeks, I believe, or maybe for a few months. So season 3 starts with Cyrus coming back to see ANDI again. But the thing is, once he comes back, ANDI doesn't really miss him all that much. She's surprised by that. She doesn't really miss him all that much. So it kind of hints that she's kind of over this relationship and they're about to break up soon. And it eventually happens. At the next Chinese New Year, towards the end, she pretty much reveals that she doesn't want to be with him anymore. and they come up with this thing called the non-breakup breakup. Like they're still cool with each other and they're friends, but they don't want to call it breaking up. So pretty much like that's the end of Jonah and ANDI right there. Another thing is that there's so many B's. There's Bowie, there's Buffy. Jesus, man. Like, man, too many B's. But with Buffy, her thing this season is that she's starting her own girls basketball team. But the thing is, the team sucks. That's the plot point. The team sucks. All the girls are bad. And she's pretty much playing coach. And none of the players know what they're doing. And also in this season, you have Walker starting a relationship with Buffy. Not like a relationship, but you can tell that he kind of is gaining feelings for Buffy. They start getting close with each other. And this makes ANDI uncomfortable because obviously the previous season before that, Walker was trying to like hit on her. So it kind of becomes awkward because, you know, now he's involved in their friend dynamic. He's at the spoon with everybody. So whenever he's around, she kind of feels like just disappearing, and it becomes like this whole awkward friend dynamic. But then later on in the season, Walker tries to ask her to a dance. He does it in this like elaborate fashion. This was a good episode. There was this whole episode about a secret society and about all the friends being invited to it one by one. And it was actually like a whole ploy for Walker to, you know, ask her out to the dance. So all of her friends, you know, getting accepted into the society, you know, with a paper, and she's the only one that hasn't been accepted. And then finally, she's the last one. And then when she goes to the location or wherever they are, I think it's at the gym or like somewhere in the school. And that's when he comes out, makes a surprise, like asking her out, and she says no. He says, and then the following episode, he tries to make her some shoes. I don't know what's up with him and just making shoes for people, but that's like his go-to, just make some shoes. I think after this, to be honest, that's pretty much the last that we see of Walker. You know, that's the closest black character that we have, and that's kind of the last we see of him. Getting rejected by ANDI, then getting rejected by Buffy. That's his role in this show. That's the end of it right there. A cool plot, in my opinion, during this season is this girl named Libby. So this is somebody that Jonah starts dating after the breakup with ANDI. So she's actually deaf, and the episode leads up to this. So at first, ANDI and her friends just see Jonah talking to some random girl, you know, just behind his back and stuff. And then when ANDI tries to approach her, she's walking away, and she's shouting at her, and she's not responding. And at first, ANDI takes this as disrespect. So she like confronts Jonah about it, like, oh, your girlfriend doesn't like me. And then from there, she just finds out that she's deaf. And then during this, actually, ANDI and the girl become cooler and closer with each other than Jonah and her did. Because the thing with Jonah, and that's kind of his whole character trait throughout the show, that he's not really emotionally available. That's kind of like his character flaw. But he never goes out of his way to learn sign language. That's the thing. Like, all he does is just text her, like, and have emojis and stuff, but he never takes the time to actually learn sign language. But ANDI actually knows it, so they kind of connect more with each other. And then as they're talking, it's pretty much revealed by Libby that she doesn't really want to be with Jonah, and she's thinking about breaking up with him. But ANDI kind of convinces her not to. So, but they kind of compromise during Buffy's basketball game. You know, Jonah kind of admits his faults and like says he'll try to learn, you know, sign language. But after that, I don't think Libby's seen after that episode. So I think it's safe to say that they end up just breaking up or not seeing each other anymore. This type of stuff really just makes me think that this season is a waste of time. So after this, they just kind of go back to Jonah and Amber again. They go back to dating. And the thing with this is that it's really the same problem again, that Jonah's not available emotionally. Amber's really clingy and like she's very in her emotions, and she's always obsessed, wanting to hear from Jonah, you know, wanting to be together with him. And he's just not as committed to it as she is, which I don't want to say he's not committed, but he's not like as clingy and attached as Amber is. So whenever like he doesn't respond to her messages or he doesn't text her, like she kind of gets very down about it. And she even kind of confides in ANDI about it some, like about how she gets mad when he doesn't text, and she tries to get ANDI's advice on whether she should tell Jonah that she loves him. And ANDI pretty much tells her not to do that because at this point we know Jonah. So We know Jonah at this point. So, but she still does it anyway because, she feels like she has to. And pretty much after that, stuff goes down the drain and they break up again. The way the breakup happens, if I recall, so they go to like this car show or whatever this place is. I don't remember. But pretty much as Amber tells Jonah that she loves him, he pretty much acts like she didn't say it. Like he acts like he can't hear her over the noise. Like he'll say, huh? Huh? And then she eventually just stops asking. She just stops saying it. So, and then after that, he kind of ends up like avoiding her. He comes up with excuses like, oh, I can't be with you. Like I'm getting tennis lessons from Cyrus. I'm getting chess lessons. And then she discovers that he's lying by going to Cyrus's therapist office. It's like a quirky thing he does. He has like a therapy office where he talks to everybody and stuff. So she goes there and plays him in chess, and she figures out that he doesn't really play chess. He doesn't know anything about it. So that's how she figures out that they're lying. And then she's also mad at Cyrus for helping in the lie. But it was really Jonah that came up with that lie and made it up. So, but pretty much from that's what makes them break up. And another thing that makes me think this season is a waste of time. So like I said previously, the show could have ended already after Bowie and Beex got engaged, which they weren't married yet, but pretty much we see them together. We got the closure we need. Like, in my opinion, we didn't really need to see them get married. But the show brings up like a fake problem. All of a sudden, Bowie and Beex don't want to get married. Like they want to be together, but they don't want to get married because they don't want the hassle of planning a wedding and all like the hassle and inviting people and making it grand, because it's really Celia that wants this big wedding, but Beex and Bowie don't really care about that much. They just want to be together. So this becomes a plot point because it makes ANDI mad and it also makes Celia mad, but then eventually we know they still end up getting married in the last episode, so it doesn't matter. Like you knew it was still going to happen. It really was just it was just filler in my opinion because they needed to fill the rest of this show to get to 3 seasons. One thing that really surprised me too about season 3 is I'm really surprised that that Jonah and Cyrus didn't get together. To be honest, I thought the show was hinting at that the whole time. That seemed like they were foreshadowing that the whole time, that eventually Cyrus and Jonah were going to date. That's what I got from it. Like, that's really what. So I was surprised that didn't happen because he even revealed to Jonah that he's gay. It still kind of hinted that he still likes Jonah. So I'm kind of surprised that the show didn't end like that. But the show ends with him being together with TJ. It's not explicitly said, but they're shown holding hands on a bench in the season finale. So that kind of lets you know that it's TJ and Cyrus that are going to be together. But just wanted to point that out. I'm surprised that Jonah and Cyrus didn't end up together. And then another thing that happens to end off season 3 is that it's shown that ANDI's going to go to an art high school. And she's convinced to do this from her mom, that she should pursue this art high school because of an art piece that she made in high school that Bex really liked. So she's going to leave all her friends after middle school is over and go to this high school. And then another thing that happens is that Marty and Buffy actually get together. This happens after Marty breaks up with his girlfriend because the girlfriend's jealous of him, because he thinks that him and Buffy are dating. So pretty much she's jealous of Buffy and all that. But he ends up breaking up with her. And then at the end, they get together because Buffy finally admits that she does have feelings for Marty. She just wasn't able to admit it at the start of the show. But, she admits that she likes him and then they're together. So, yeah, I don't think there's anything really left to cover. That kind of is the end of season 3, the big plot points. And as a whole, again, I just found this season pretty unnecessary. Another thing, this is when the granddad, he got fired from the show. And again, like I said earlier in the review, you don't even notice. You literally don't even notice. So as I was saying, guys, ANDI Mack is the last of its era. It's the last big Disney sitcom, in my opinion, as far as quality and popularity. It's safe to say Disney Channel died after this, or at least shortly after Raven's Home. Like, it's kind of sad, man. Like, it's kind of sad that we don't really have these sitcoms anymore. Even though I'm really too old for this stuff anyway. I shouldn't be interested in teen sitcoms and stuff. But it's really the end of an era. Like, kids nowadays don't watch TV anymore. Like, there's no need for it anymore. Like, kids nowadays, they just watch TikTok, they watch YouTube. So there's no need for these shows. There's no need for a Hannah Montana. There's no need for an Andy Mack and Austin and Ally. So it's kind of sad in a way that era is gone. I wonder if there's going to be a time or any time in the future where we're going to see Disney Channel kind of going back to those type of shows, or you see more of them on Disney Plus. I've seen a few. I forgot what it was called, but I saw something on Disney Plus about this girl band. I might check that out. Let me know in the comments actually if you want me to check that out. But it's been the Crim Reaper. It's been the Andy Mack review. Peace.